Friends, welcome to my channel. So here is the question about the neuromuscular junction. So this is the diagram about the neuromuscular junction. The question is you need to name the parts label A to D. So this is the diagram. In this diagram, look over here. In this diagram, the part A, these are the mitochondria. So these are mitochondria. Next to the P is this one is the presynaptic membrane. The C, these are the vesicles that contain neurotransmitter, and the D, this one is the synaptic cleft. We can also write the gap. So the are the 2 marks for this one, so you need to write all of them to get your 2 marks. Okay, so this is the next part of the same question. The question is, following the release of acetylcholine into a neuromuscular junction, a muscle contraction occurs. So the question is, now the examiner is asking about describe the sequence of events. You need to write the stages step by step following the release of acetylcholine that leads to the stimulation of contraction. So starting from release of acetylcholine, and we need to in the end of the muscle contraction. So this is a series of the events, but again there is one more instruction over here. Do not include in your answer the events following the release of calcium ions in the myofibril. So this means you don't need to write about sliding filament model. So don't need to write about these series. So this is for marker. We need to write, keep in mind again, we need to start from here the release of acetylcholine and ends at the contraction, but in between skip about sliding filament model. Okay, so now students, look over here in the diagram. So this is the diagram of the neuromuscular junction. So what happens when the electrical impulse comes for the muscle contraction? So these are the vesicles. These vesicles, they contain neurotransmitter. The name of the neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. These vesicles, when the nerve impulse come over here, these vesicles, they diffuse over here in the membrane, and they release the acetylcholine into the cleft, into the gap over here. Now these acetylcholine are the neurotransmitter. They bind over here. This is the sarcolemma, the membrane of the muscles. So these are the receptors over here. These acetylcholines, they bind over here. When they bind on the receptor side, the receptors, they become permeable. These receptors, they become permeable, so that result in the influx of the sodium ions inward. So sodium ions rush inside, and when the sodium ions, they move inside, they cause the depolarisation, or they generate the electric impulse. So depolarisation or the generation of the electrical impulse, so depolarisation generates the electric impulse, and this travels electrical impulse, and this electrical impulse, it travels deep over here. It travels deep inside. It travels deep into the sarcoplasm reticulum, and the cytoplasm reticulum, it releases the calcium ions into sarcoplasm, and in the sarcoplasm, after this, the sliding filament models begins. But over here again, focus on the question. Back to the question. Over here in the question is, do not include in your answer the events following the release of calcium ions. So now we are now going to write over here in detail. So the calcium ions release into the sarcoplasm, and then it causes a muscle contraction. So just jump from here to here. We don't need to discuss this one. Okay, so now I'm going to write the answer. The answer is acetylcholine diffuses across. It diffuses across the over here, like it diffuses, acetylcholine diffuses across the membrane over here. So student, over here the sample answer is, the answer is acetylcholine diffuses across the synaptic cleft. So this is the synaptic cleft. So acetylcholine, it diffuses over here, and then it attaches to the receptors. So over here there is another, here the receptors are present. So acetylcholine bind over here. Receptors became permeable to sodium ions. Now these receptors, they allow the movement of the sodium ions inside, and then they generate the electric impulse. This electric impulse, then it travels deep into the sarcoplasm reticulum and release the calcium ions that are responsible for the muscle contraction. Thank you students. Don't forget to follow my channel for more educational videos.